Hello and welcome to Backstage with Gig Performer. My name is Brett Pontecorvo, and we are here usually on Thursdays, but today we are here on Saturdays for an episode that you are not going to want to miss. Truly, blown away with what we're about to go through. Super duper high level gig performer stuff, but usually we're sharing tips, we're sharing performance techniques, and hearing people's stories about how they're using Gig Performer to help them actually own the stage. And, it's our catchphrase. I have to say, when I came on and I started working with Gig Performer, I didn't fully understand what this concept was, what it meant to actually own the stage. And as I've chatted with more and more people about their experience with Gig Performer, it started to come into focus where I really pieced together that it just means your gear is going to work. So you can actually be on the stage and perform the music and connect with the audience and connect with the people. And all of the tech is amazing because it really empowers us to do whatever we can imagine. But the thing that really makes the difference here is that when the tech is solid, you can focus on the performance. And the people who come to hear you play are not that interested in your tech. They're interested in your performance. And so it's a really awesome thing that we get to be able to do when we're talking about Gig Performer. It's kind of like, hey, get your tech out of the way so you can focus on really making music. It's a really powerful thing and a really powerful shift. But today, special guest Samson Andersson is coming on. He's currently playing with a band called the Arc Band, who plays reggae music, which actually leads me to my next question. If you are watching right now and you know the answer to this, can you let me know what a bubbler is in the comments? What is a bubbler? Let me know. When Samson asked me this question, I was like, I don't know. It sounds like something I would take my kid to see. But anyway, we got Samson coming through today. So if you do know the answer to that question, do pop it in the comments. We'll see who knows what's up. Otherwise, I'm sure we'll find out today. But without further ado, I want to welcome our special guest onto today's stream. So welcome, Sam. How's it going, man?
Brett, it's good to be here. Nice to meet you.
It's like the most anticipated live stream in the history of Gig Performer.
Out of the way, you know.
Yeah, man. All right, so you want to we're kind of jumping right in here, but I'm like, you pop up on the screen and I'm seeing 3 tiers of keyboards, a bunch of faders,
Yeah. So basically, what this is just like kind of a Frankenstein I built. It's made out of 2 Roland JD90s, which is a workstation from 1993. Wow. I bought it because it's really lightweight. It has an aluminum key bed, and I actually, if you can't really see it, but both of the top parts of the keyboard you usually see are actually kind of straps underneath. All I did was take it out of the chassis and kind of arrange under there. It works, and then this is actually some MIDI board. I never heard of it before. My cousin found it in a dumpster.
But he found it in an actual dumpster?
Yeah, literally found it in a dumpster. And not only that, but I had an 88 keyboard that was on the road. It was a huge pain. I was taking it out of my car, taking it home to set up practice, and going back and forth because I just sold both my Cronoses. And so it was actually a lifesaver. So this is the best. I don't even know what it is. It's like a MIDI board. I couldn't even find any information on it online. Not a MIDI board. That's Chris Watts. It's an awesome thing. Something else. But yeah, So cool. So that's my setup. It was modeled after kind of like an AGO setup, like American Guild of Organists standards, for the organ, because I'm a church organist and it feels comfy to me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I know we were chatting briefly about the connection of just like organ players, and I want to hear your whole story, but I'm like, this is just where we are. So why is organ so profound for launching people into playing keyboards, in your opinion?
Oh, well, I mean, I don't know. Organ is they call it the king of the instruments, you can do so much, create so much sound with one, I mean, if you put a piano next to an organ, you can create a lot of power with an organ.
Yeah.
I'm first a pianist I grew up classical piano is my background, but organ has had a very big impact on me. Also, I think that especially church organs, it's just like a study in ergonomics, you know. I mean, it's just everything is close. I mean, it's like a, I don't know, it's like a fighter jet like, you know, it's like a cockpilot, you know,
Yeah.
cockpits. So yeah, I love the organ.
And
I play church organ, Hammond, all that kind of stuff. I'm a classical church organist
did
for
you
2 different. Go ahead.
did you fall in love immediately? Like when you were a kid and you were doing
No,
music, was it
not at
you didn't?
all.
Okay.
With music. Sorry, I thought you were talking about organ,
No.
actually. But so for organ, I was just a pianist who was asked to play organ, you know, and I played without the pedals. I just kind of had to tuck my feet in awkwardly because I was scared of them.
Mhm.
I think the only time I played the pedals when I accidentally stepped on one when I was getting out of the organ bench, you know. And then I like I slowly started doing like whole notes with my hymns, and now I play what's written. But it's taken about, I've been playing organ for about 8-9 years. And music, yeah, okay, let's jump right into that. Let me share my screen.
Let me make sure I get your screen up here. So, okay.
Okay, how's that?
Yeah, sweet.
There we are. Cool. So let's just keep going.
Yeah.
So yeah, it says my musical background. Born in a musical family. There's my mom. There's me playing the kazoo, you know. So yeah, my little sister.
Wait, that's you on the left with
my
the
little
kazoo?
sister, yeah, yeah.
I love
So
it.
you know, I was a prodigy. So then my sister played trumpets in the Ohio State marching band. My dad was a trumpeter too. My mom was amateur pianist that just liked to play. Inspired me when I was a kid. Childhood, I was playing for tips by the time I think I was 8 or 9, you know, but mostly
Yes.
grandpa was I don't know if you call it a professional career, but grandpa was giving me tips around 8 or 9.
Yeah.
I started accompanying church choirs around 12 or 13, semi-professionally. Same thing with like schools, you know, for
Yep.
tips. And by the time I was in college, that was pretty much it, you know. I was pretty much playing weddings and all that kind of stuff. I started playing my music festivals, classical music festivals. These kind of, you're kind of a performer, kind of a student in this situation. I was playing like Ithaca College, Wolfenschlern. I spent a summer in Italy playing in the mountains. So beautiful. It's actually, I used to be a pre-med, but after doing that, I decided music was way better. And then I just got rid of that completely.
Okay, cool.
So then Brevard, North Carolina, another cool music festival. That was in 2013, 2014. I put out a few of my own self-produced albums, which is just like a sticker kit from Target and an old, CD-ROM burner.
I remember those.
Yes. So that was, I studied classical piano, jazz, music technology, voice. So then I got my first real gig, Shadowbox Live,
Awesome.
biggest resident theater company in America. We were playing as many as 11, 12 shows a week. It was go. It was go, go, go. It really taught me like the logistics of music, started to get the logistics of a production, you know. I mean, I did theater and stuff as a kid, but it was nothing like this. You know, it's like a factory, a music factory. So I was playing, and at this point, I still was very much in the page, in the sense that I was a classical pianist. Like I was playing Rachmaninoff concertos, but I couldn't play Happy Birthday by ear. You know, it was just like I didn't have the skill set really. I just kind of wandered into it, and I had like my sheet music on the, you know, on top of the keys like, for my Michael Jackson tunes, and it kind of stuck out. But you know, I figured it out. I was there for about a couple years, played Prince, Peter Gabriel, Michael Jackson, Joe Cocker, etc.
Did you
Started
have a
making
breakthrough moment for that?
What was it?
Did you have like a breakthrough moment for like when the page started to be less of like a necessity for you?
No, it was very well. Honestly, I just started off very slow. Like when I was playing string sections, I wasn't really hearing all the different parts in a string section. I was just holding chords on the choruses, and I just kind of like learned my chord. I could follow along with chords. It was, it was really like a learning how to walk kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it didn't take that long to learn how to walk. You know, I think it took me a few years, and by then I was learning all my songs by ear. I wasn't learning anything, and by then I was sick. I didn't even use sheet music after a couple of years.
Yeah.
That.
And did you like,
go ahead?
You know, classical musicians, I feel like really excel with like the way they phrase things. Like classical musicians are experts in saying something poignant. Did you find
Yeah.
that it was a massive adjustment, like in playing musical theater, like feeling time differently? Did you feel like that worked to your benefit? Did you not notice it at all?
Well, what you're saying might be true, I think, for like classical ensemble players, but for a classical pianist, like no one has worse time than a classical pianist because
Interesting.
they can do whatever they want. So they can go faster, they can go slower, they can do
Y-
whatever they want. So for me, I had to like learn how to operate within an ensemble, how to really listen. Also, classical pianists can be really egotistical because like they don't have to listen to anything else; they just make their own music. So
Yeah.
so leaving solo piano and getting into rock and roll was kind of learning how to fit into a group, how to listen.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, the only thing my classical training really gave me was just a technique where I can play anything that if I can understand it, I can play it.
Yes.
But as far as like rhythm and all that kind of stuff, I almost felt like that was kind of like starting over too.
Wow.
I mean, I'm sure I learned some things, but it's like it's just
Yeah.
too different. It's a different ball game,
Wow. Interesting. Okay. Cool.
So I got my degree in piano performance, classical piano. Um, but around the time I graduated, maybe a little before, I started running the music program at Eastview United Methodist Church and Whitehall United Methodist Church.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd play with bell choirs and play on the organ. That's about when I started picking up the organ.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, offertories, started learning gospel. That kind of fit in with my background, playing like pop piano.
Mm-hmm.
Usually I just kind of improvise on arrangements, like kind of half play on the page, half play off the page. That's
Yeah.
usually how I do that. Released a few more solo piano albums. That's still it's the only photo I saw laying around.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's Social Crush. So this was made up of they're made up of Shadowbox performers that were just kind of sick of staring at the same walls. We like Shadowbox, but we wanted to kind of get on the move. So
Yeah.
we started our own bands, and we're managed by Van Easterday Productions. He does a lot of cover bands, party bands. I think he, like when the Cavs won the Cavs won, whatever it's called. I'm sorry, not not a sports fan. Someone's slapping their head right now. But when the Cavs won, they did their party. So they're in the big like party scene. Okay, let's clip kind of stuff we're playing. So yeah, just party music. So then I left that band just because bands come and go. It kind of moved. I don't know what happens. It kind of, some members stayed, some members left. Someone moved to Nashville. Anyways, Social Crush kind of turned into the Project System, and that was when I really started getting into Black American music. I was playing with the band. I was playing all black clubs, playing a lot of R&B, rap, hip hop. Let's see. Let me check. This is the band. Oh, love them. I love.
That's some skill there.
This is me learning how to chop, doing samples, running samples for Rico. So yeah, learning how to kind of almost like an MC for that band, cutting a lot of samples, making a lot of 808s, and
what were you using to play your samples at that point in time?
Oh, this was my Kronos. I was using a Korg Kronos, and you can use a Korg Kronos like an MPC. I would just put different samples on different notes and just kind of use that almost like my my pad.
Yep.
So I was able to play a lot of hip hop samples, and I don't know, it's not a huge difference between top 40 and hip hop and stuff, just the feel and the samples and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So then that band went on for a few years, and then I joined the Arc bands. The Arc bands, love these guys. These guys have been on the road. Let's see. Here's Terry Bob and Eustace. I don't know. You can't see. Can you see me? Okay, yeah, I'm just on a little. Yeah. So those two, the St. Lucian Rhythm Twins, they've been touring for 36 years, nonstop.
Wow.
So these are road dogs. I learned a lot from these guys. Band, trailer, haul the PA, drop it, play, leave. We got really good at that. And here we are playing for ComFest, which is a big community festival in Columbus, Ohio. But these guys have played everywhere, every state in the United States. We're actually playing May 12th for the St. Lucian Jazz Festival, which a lot of big names. We're really excited. I think on the schedule too, we have like Sting, Buju Banton, some Jamaican artists. It's going to be really awesome. So
yes,
these guys are a real deal.
by the way, if you're watching the stream and you're like, I want to check out something, which of those links has is it the Arc Band website that has the tour dates?
Yeah, you can look up thearcband.com,
Yeah.
the Arc Band's Instagram.
Yeah.
I'm sure you could track down something on my Instagram leading you to them too if you go to my Instagram. So yeah, so here we are. This is the Arc Band. So I think that's probably where we should start going into the reggae, how to play reggae.
Reggae, man. Why is it special? Why is it awesome?
Well, when you play reggae, when I first sat in with the bands, I didn't know what to do. Mm-hmm. Like, I just didn't know what to do because it's like usually with top 40, you have like, you have a lead, a pad. Yep. I don't know, it's just a couple sounds, and you play the sounds, and that's it. But for reggae, you have just a lot of very sparse sounds, and you can't really. I mean, if you go at it at a traditional approach, I mean, usually, like Bob Marley, Steel Pulse, a lot of these reggae bands will have 2 or 3 keyboardists. You'll have, like, back to the original question, you have a bubbler, which I'm about to demonstrate. You have a bubbler, you have a skank, and maybe an aux player. Mm-hmm. So let me demonstrate what some of this stuff does. So let's pull up my. Okay, so at the very essence, a bubble is just. That's just kind of adds a little bit of energy to because I mean reggae is really slow. Sometimes that's like the only push in the entire band. So it's my job. You need it. If it's not there, the whole band's gonna suffer. And usually from this right here is just a layered piano. I have it layered in octaves because normally they would hire a guy that literally his only job is to do this. Yeah, seriously, and it's hard.
How many keyboard players in a typical reggae band would exist? Like, if you had no tech, how many keyboard players would need to be on stage to make it work?
Minimum of 2.
Minimum of 2. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And that's especially So minimum, you'd have the pianist, you'd have a bubbler, and then the bubbler would be like doing like a 2-handed.
Gotcha. And that's traditionally done on organ. That part.
What is it?
And the part you just played is typically done on organ.
Yeah, exactly. Just how it sounds. It's an organ, just with a single, just the 8-foot slide, drawbar out, just with a single drawbar. Very simple. Okay, but it sounds. I mean, you're not really doing it's necessary, but you don't really feel like you're doing much when you're just doing this. Yeah. Also, it's kind of hard to focus because you can really get distracted if you have to play just one chord for 10 minutes, and not even move. So I struggled with that. So what I came up with is let's go into pull up my Max machine. Oh, over here. Let me drag it over to you.
I don't want to cut you off too far, but I guess just contextually so people understand. You're in this band and you're trying to solve the problem of how do I cover 2 keyboards plus auxiliary parts, horn, strings. Like you're about to show something that blows my mind, but it was birthed out of you trying to solve the problem of covering several musicians' parts. Is that true?
Yeah. And actually, the amount of parts I can cover continues to grow, but this was birthed out of the single thing is I wanted to be able to play the bubble with one hand.
Gotcha. Okay.
I wanted to be able to have. So if you look at this right here, let me go up to this real quick. Let's pull it on. Hold on. Okay. So I'm gonna turn this guy off for a moment. I'm gonna build one from scratch just to show you how.
Whoa. All right. So for people who are watching right now that maybe are unfamiliar with this, this is a program called Max. Yes.
Yep. So basically, here's the game. I have everything right here. Okay, where's my stupid mouse? I'm lost here. There. Okay, so these right here, I have are triggered by some notes I have on my keyboard. So I can just set my trigger. I have all these commands available to me. Mm-hmm. These right here, same thing. They're down at the bottom.
Yep.
These actually show the MIDI output of where I'm sending it. So when I originally click the set trigger button, set trigger, that's going to send I'm going to decide what note do I want to send a different signal than a typical note, because that D doesn't have to be a D. So for example, let's do this bottom. I did 38, which is this D down here on my left hand. Okay. So now I'm going to press this B right here, which is channel 1. That's what channel, each one of these goes to a different instrument. I have them all kind of mapped out. You probably don't need to know that, but this is my bubble channel. So that every time I send a 1, that's sending a bubble. Now I'm going to play a chord in my left hand. There you go. Oh, you know what? Shoot. Let me fix that again. My apologies. Okay, so trigger. Do it again. Okay. Okay, so now I have that. I store. Okay. Okay, hold on. What's going on here? Okay, troubleshooting.
No, all good. This is the real deal.
Capture. Okay, you know what? Let me just try it on this, see if it's working. Okay, you know what? I don't know what's going on there. I'm abandoning that problem. Okay, so anyways, there it is. There's the bubble. So now I'm playing a single chord. Now, if I do that for every single step, I can add the same thing with piano. It also works for horns. So, for example, I could put several notes per note, and then I can have harmonized horns. So then I'm able to, at that point, I'm playing 2 hands for the piano, 2 hands for 2 bubbles, and then I also have a 4-part horns, all playing separate monophonic notes, which I don't know. That's probably up to 5 or 6 hands if you're going to do that, you know.
Yeah. Okay. So, and I'm like listening to you play the horn parts, and I'm like, it also gives you the ability to phrase correctly, right? Instead of trying to.
Because you can't play like polyphonic horns, and you can't play every note like legato. It's impossible.
Yes.
Like, it's not physically possible.
Yeah.
So, but if you look over here, you can hear it. Let's solo some of these things. So here's the top trumpet. It's T2, an octave down. Oh, sorry, no, T2 is a 6th down. And then you have the saxophone, an octave down. Trombone.
Wow.
And I actually sometimes, a lot of times I think of, I kind of divide my keyboard up into octave phrases, because sometimes that harmony wouldn't work in another situation. Later, I do something like. And then up here, I need to have the saxophone hold the same notes. Let's see if I can move this a little bit. So I actually just add like a random C sharp to be an F, just an F that doesn't move. So then I go. Sorry. So I'm able to, be pretty creative,
That's amazing. That's such like a melding of the minds. Like, I'm so glad you made such a clear thing, because I'm like listening to you explain this, and I'm like, I can see so clearly the progression of like, okay, pop music, you're getting your time, you're getting your harmony. Then you're moving into hip hop, you're triggering samples. Your keyboard becomes sometimes a sample player.
Integral in helping me imagine that, because it's like, I actually called it a MIDI sampler when I first built it, because it's basically like sampling MIDI.
Yes.
And actually, I first built a patch that was bubbles audio sampled, and that's how I do it with audio samples.
Wow.
But just, it was impossible to get, like, I don't know, there are some MIDI sampling machines that I didn't have access to back then, but I would actually physically play it and record it, and it was the biggest mess. Like, one was too loud, one was too soft. I'd have to EQ each one differently, and it just was like, abandoned it. It was too hard, but I used it for like a couple of gigs in my bands. I thought my bandmates were really happy when I abandoned it,
How did you end up, Chord Kronos, and then I know you had a brief tenure with Mainstage.
Yeah, so Core Chronos did everything I needed it to at the time.
Yeah.
It can make a lot of sounds. I mean, the one thing that I could not do on the Core Chronos that made me leave its thing was horns.
Gotcha.
I mean, there's just no way around it. I mean,
Gotcha.
like, keyboard horns sound cheesy. I think that's how they're meant to sound. You know, they're like, I mean, I still play keyboard horns. Like we're playing a kind of like a Caribbean soca tune, and soca, it's just got this kind of joy to it that even like good sounding horns are out of place. You need like the cheesiest, raunchiest keyboard horns, and it just sounds hilarious and fun. And I still use keyboard horns. It has its place. But when I really want just like a wicked horn section, you know, it's just like you can really get that with this system.
Yeah.
So and also my horn hat. Let me go back to so here's a. Okay, give it a second here. Let's open this up. So this is my horn patch.
Okay.
So this is actually kind of funny. So I used to this is my HB1. That's like a breath controller, which you see right here, and it has a very fast stream of data. So I used to actually split that stream into 16 different channels and then just send, because every single one of these needs its own data stream for the breath to work.
Gotcha.
For like the breath to determine the volume. And I used to give them all their own MIDI channel, but then I was having like MIDI notes were bashing and some hanging notes. And I think the culprit was just too much MIDI data flowing on one bus. So now I have everything on one channel, MIDI channel 1. And I forget how I devised it, but so that way, this actually kind of filters the MIDI channel to MIDI channel 1. So that way, that even though they're all MIDI channel 1, they all have their own separate kind of MIDI bus, but they can all be run by a single channel. So that way, I'm not sending so much data. Right. Anyways, I don't know. That might be too technical to be interesting,
No. But I think what's valuable here is you've got one input source going to multiple destinations.
Exactly.
Right?
So this is one breath controller on one channel, and that is able to drive everything. So that makes it nice.
Yes.
And I still have individual control on each one of these for notes and stuff.
Yeah.
And now, these are, go ahead.
Why don't you explain this first, and then I'll ask my question. You were going to talk about your VST there?
Yeah, I was just going to say, this is the trumpets. I believe it's sample modeling.
Okay.
There's a sample modeling, audio modeling. I hope I don't mix them up. I think sample modeling. This is SWAM. Okay, audio modeling. So the saxophones are SWAM, and my horns are sample modeling.
Gotcha.
And I've not heard better. I love them. So this is really good. I think this is still being produced. It's an old product. SWAM is definitely new. You can get horns for SWAM too. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they're really cool.
Okay.
So let's move on.
This is phenomenal. What I'm noticing is that you've just got some horns there. It's just one Rackspace with horns. How is this all working together? Because you've also got a lot of knobs and faders. Like, give us the breakdown of what is happening in Gig Performer.
Okay, let me actually prepare a little slide for you. So
yeah, sweet.
Let's go right here. So
Brad Smith is asking if you're running your breath controller on channel 11. Is that and then routing to channel 1?
That's what I was explaining previously. Previously, you would need a channel 11 breath signal to trigger that trumpet. But what I do, let me go back. So if I go into here, so trumpet number 1 on channel 11, right? Channel 1. So because this trumpet is on channel 1, it accepts a breath controller from channel 1.
Gotcha.
This right here changes channel 11 to channel 1, the notes of channel 11 to channel 1.
Yep.
And since it's not attached here, this will change all my my max notes to fit in here. So this goes 11 to 1, and this is like the master 1 breath controller.
Gotcha.
So good question.
Gotcha. Okay. Sweet. Yeah, I'm just for clarity, I know certain things are channel specific, but Gig Performer makes it very quick to reroute channels.
And that's an important tool to have. I used to have to do everything with I forget the names, like MIDI aux and all these little side peripheries that I would use for every single performance. And before the gig, you'd have to make sure everything was up and running and connected well. And if anything wasn't up, nothing would work. And I like how Gig Performer, everything can be built in. I don't actually have anything running in the background except for my max patch, of course, when I run Gig Performer. So, okay, well, let's go back. So you're looking here. You can kind of see my background there. You have my my manuals. So I actually don't have an organ manual right now. It's a MIDI project. I have one down in the basement I'm building, so hopefully that'll be for the next one we do. But
Sweet.
so right now that's just future development. So right now I'm just showing you swell, grate, and choir, which by AGO standards, swell's on top, grate is the main one, which is this like middle one right here, and then choir I use for my weighted keyboard for the bottom keys.
Gotcha.
Okay, so let's keep going. Everything is DIN. I hear that USB could be better than DIN because it has faster transfer speeds and all this kind of stuff. But just in my experience, USB is at the mercy of the operating system. The operating system can decide it doesn't want to talk to your USB device. I mean, not to say that it happens, but that's a possibility. So I don't actually like the reliability of USB as much as I like the reliability of DIN, which it eventually goes to USB because it goes to my RME. But just having one rock solid USB MIDI driver and everything going to that is my system. So
it's also
I like the
sturdy. You were saying you prefer it for the road
Is it
because it's less likely to
too?
wear out.
Yeah, I've broken a lot of USB ports. I remember I played this one festival where I used to only have a bottom keyboard and a top keyboard, and there's no room for air there. If either one breaks, you're in pretty big trouble.
Yeah.
And my top one, the USB port broke like on stage. And I remember just like setting it like so gently where it's just like sitting on the circuit board in the right position. And just even with the bass rattling, it stayed there the whole gig miraculously without the USB disconnecting.
Wow.
So
Horrifying.
yeah, I mean, I've been lucky before, but it doesn't mean I want to push my luck all the time. So
Yes.
I use just DIN because you can step on it. It's not going to break. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to suggest you do that, but
Yeah.
it's pretty it's pretty tough.
Yeah.
So let's go down. Okay, so these are all. Oh, sorry. This is a MIDI Solutions Quadra Merge, which is just like a 4 MIDI in, and it compiles all the MIDI data into one single output. So then that will go into my RME, just the MIDI input on that.
Yep.
And then from there, I have my bubble master, which is actually this Rackspace right here that I'm using.
Okay.
This is let me go to, if I go to wiring, that has my bubble, which is my Hammond organ, which I leave running 100% of the time because I use it all the time. It's just good to have running in the background. Same thing. This is a M1, which is an old Korg, which is actually the keyboard. Any reggae guys will know about this. Like, I don't know why, but just in Jamaica, every single keyboard has had an M1 when they're playing. It just worked. Like this Piano 16, use it a lot in old house music. It just cuts through the mix. It's not really a nice sound. I'm not gonna play it for you because you all wrinkle your nose. But when you're on stage, it just cuts right through the mix and is bright and beautiful. It's perfect for that little okay, it's not up. That little piano part that I was playing earlier. So that's actually that's a Korg M1, and it just punches right through. If I want something a little bit prettier, I will use this piano, which is my native instruments. It doesn't cut through nearly as well, but if I'm playing anything melodic, it just sounds nicer. If I'm playing, kind of using a piano more for a melodic instrument or to fill things out, chords and stuff. So sometimes I'll mix the two if I want something. So it's kind of like nice to be able to mix soft and sharp. So I have like a little mixer set up in my Rackspace. And then here's just the piano signal chain. And then kind of a similar situation, here's my sampler. My sampler actually operates on a max channel. And what that means is that I can get into my sampler from anywhere. I just have to have my max patch, and then I'm able to trigger whatever sample I want, just like by programming what note I want, just like I showed you before. Yeah. So I can add any sample to any note on my keyboard, which is really convenient. Yeah. So that's my master. Another thing about my master is that actually, let me show you. It's they're all linked via Ableton Link. I guess not right now, but normally they are. Yep. So that way this it shows the BPMs are all synced together. Also, when I change this, OSC will change all my other instances together. So I can even, if someone calls a song like, Africa, I can just, oops, wrong one. I can just pop it right there. I can really quickly, change my songs. It's much easier.
So for somebody who doesn't know what OSC is, how would you describe that?
I wouldn't describe it. I would go to gig performer community forums and do a little homework.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, okay, I'll describe it. It's like MIDI, but MIDI has like, I just think of it as, it's 8-bit or whatever. Or is that correct? 8-bit. It only has 128. It only has 128 different values. So if you're sending PC channels or control changes, whatever, if you get to 128, you're done. So if you you can only do 128 songs for program changes and this kind of stuff, and then also you have to keep things synced up, and it's just kind of a mess. So the nice thing about OSC is it's like a point to point, so you can have very specific channels. So like this right here, it says global Rackspace. I can TS drive set value, Tube Screamer drive set value.
Yep.
So that when I go to my global, will directly control this, because that's TS drive set on that same channel, directly addressable. So that means I can control this. Let me show this in person. Very easily together, Yes. And almost every single parameter on my entire rig is linked to another thing in OSC. Because I use global effects instead of rack effects to save memory, CPU optimization, this kind of thing. And it makes my tracks actually pretty lean. Even though it looks like I'm doing a lot, the actual rack spaces are really lean. And then I have a global FX section.
Yeah.
And they're all standard. So I'm hoping to kind of eventually put these all on hardware controllers or, I don't know, touch screens. Mm-hmm. So that way I can I want to make everything tactile.
Yes.
So that's my goal, again, for future development. If you can see behind me, I have some Behringer X touches, which I started a project with that. I use them a little bit, but that's still kind of under construction. So I'm not going to go into too much of that today.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Everything is linked together by OSC, and you're using 4 instances?
Yeah, so I'm using 4 instances. Actually, there's an extra one here. Let me show you, just because this instance is the X-Touch instance. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see the little slider dancing in the background? You can probably see it running back and forth. Yeah, so this is the control. You can actually do all sorts of amazing things with
people can see that. It just caught my eye. So when you open the knob, if we look behind your head, it's moving over there.
I'll do one a little closer to the camera. I'll do one right there. Okay, let's try one.
Yeah, I see
How's that? Yeah, you can see it run up and down. There it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of fun. So I have a lot of fun with that.
Yeah. Is that an extension, or you built that yourself?
Well, that actually is built right into Gig. What I just showed you right there, that's really simple. That's built into Gig Performer itself. You just sync the widget with the MIDI control. Gotcha. What I built is actually, I don't know about built, but I found some documentation online that led me to sysx messages that allows me to control LCD strips and these kind of things. I'm not going to show my camera. You can see the lights on the LCD strips are all lit up, and they can all describe all the parameters that they edit in Gig Performer. And with OSC, everything's reactive. So I could, in theory, which actually I've been working on, every time I change to a new Rackspace, all those LCDs could change colors and descriptions, and everything could snap to their place. And it could just basically be like I don't know if you knew the old C24. It's like an old Pro Tools mouse, I guess, but it's just a big. Yeah, but that's kind of what I'm going for, is to build like a control surface for a Gig Performer.
Yes.
But I was working really hard on it, making a lot of good progress, and then the days just kept going by, and I had to start practicing and actually playing real music, so I had to put that down for a second and kind of get out of that mode. Yeah. But I'll be getting back to that after this gig on the 12th.
Yeah.
So let's keep moving. So so we have so there's the VST instruments. Let me what's this? Okay, so again I have my Hammonds in the background, the piano. And also, this is just for visual. This is not a real patch, just so everybody knows. This is just
so you built this just for us, so we can understand where everything is going. Just people who are watching.
I probably should use something a little less CPU intensive than a Volcano 3, but wasn't thinking. So then I have this Swell VST. So this every single has just its own VST, just one at a time. And the nice thing is that the RME DIN in goes to every single one of these. So I'm not actually constrained to one manual per sound module. If I wanted to, I could put all 4 sounds on one manual. I could put all, I can basically patch as I want. Every single one gets all 4 channels, and I just filter the channels I don't want. So let me keep going. Yeah, so there's a Global FX, same idea. They all have their own chain.
Yep.
Um, and that goes to my software outputs in Total Mix, which I send out to my audio snake. And I usually send the sound engineer about 4 channels each when I'm playing live. One for the bubble, one for the piano, and then like a stereo out for everything else. So that usually keeps them pretty happy.
Yeah.
And then, then I got my pedals, my Max machine, and my breath controller, which also are patched into every single instance. And that's it. That's it.
It's amazing. It's what I love about it is like the complexity comes from stacking very simple things.
Exactly. So it might seem, if you haven't fully digested it, it might seem complex, but it's not really. If anything, it keeps getting simpler and simpler the longer I use it, because it's just kind of fleshing out. And it's funny because I didn't mean to, but like looking back, it's almost kind of structured like the Chronos. Like we're talking about that, of having like kind of like floating engines that are kind of accessed with presets. So it's kind of turning into that. But it was funny, I got away from that and I'm slowly kind of going back to that in a way. I'll show you what I mean by that. So I have used just a few different, I have a clav, a Rhodes. This is all, everything here, this is my choir. So this is all weighted keyboards, things that I like for a weighted keyboard.
Okay.
I like horns because I like to feel a little bit of weight under my fingers when I'm playing them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, brass, M1 pianos, whirly. These are all weighted sounds in my view.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have my great. Of course, I got a Hammond clav. Oh yeah, 8 voice. Love the 8 voice.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, this is an incredible piece of software. OBE, check it out. I love it too because it's been used for a lot of reggae records. You hear a lot of stuff. I'll show you a patch that's very famous from a Bob Marley tune in a bit. Farfisa, I've heard this instrument a lot. Oh, I think my voice is faster than. Okay, there we go. This is an Italian kind of. I don't want to say. I think it came after the Hammond. I think it was going for a more mobile. I hope I'm not saying the wrong thing. I think they're going for a more mobile version of the Hammond was why it was designed in the 70s, I believe. But it's this kind of a interesting sounding. It has a real beautiful tone to it. You hear it. I'll show you a couple songs. Bob Marley used it for kind of almost like flute sounds and these kind of things. No one really used it for what it was intended for, I think.
Yes.
It just
but it
like
became its own thing. It like the
yeah,
Farfisa is
definitely.
It's an instrument now, right?
Yeah, so it's really cool. And I just discovered this when I played the last Bob Marley tour. I was just doing research and I kind of popped this up. I heard someone say, because I have one sound I've always been chasing was the Three Little Birds. I don't know if you know Three Little Birds, a little synth sound at the beginning, but it sounds like a synth. It sounds like an organ. I could never put my finger on what it is, but I believe it is a Farfisa through a Leslie. So if you make a Farfisa, it's like kind of like a synthesizer organ. So anyways, let's go to my swell. And this has a little bit different, but same idea, clav, Farfisa. I also have, of course, I got my Mini Moog. I use the Legend, which ever since I got it, I never wanted a Mini Moog again. I used to really want a Mini Moog until I got this, and now I just don't care. If you have a vintage Mini Moog, I'll take it, but I don't. Yeah, but honestly, I don't have no envy in my heart. It sounds awesome. It's really easy to use, and it's the future,
Yeah.
Okay, so this is another famous synth. Oh, is it? I forget what the original name of the synth was called. Someone will be able to help me out. Someone in the comments.
Yeah,
OB8.
throw it in the comments. It's skipping my head right
OB8,
now too.
I think is the original, and I recognize it by sight. I think it's called a OB8. It's a. But I saw a lot of times I will go on YouTube when I'm trying to track down these sounds I make, and I try to find live recordings, not only to hear them, what they sound like in the mix, but to see what the keyboardist is playing. And I know that Bob Marley was touring. This was in the 80s, and they were playing this right here. They're playing, and so I made my sounds with the same instrument they did, which makes it way easier to lock in these sounds because you just know you're twisting the same knobs he is. You'll figure it out,
Yes.
You can like back to like the Chronos thing. You can do everything with the Chronos, but it imparts its own flavor on everything, and also it just so everything has its own signal path and its own controls will lead you to a certain, whether you know it or not, it will lead you in a certain way.
Yes.
Like even if you have another monophonic synth like a Mini Moog, even if it has the exact same sound, if it has knobs in different places, you're going to come up with something different because it's just a different synth, you know?
Yeah, your
So
tools
that's why
really affect you.
Definitely. So I really try to use the same, especially when I'm playing cover songs, to use the exact same tools that the original people use because it helps me lock in on that sound. So this OPA, let me show you cool sounds. He was experimenting using this for a bubble. So let me show you a couple synth bubbles.
Yeah.
Let's see here. So I don't know if anybody knows "Coming In From the Cold" by Bob Marley. But okay, here's another chance. So in this bubble, I actually use 3 notes. The fifth is the piano. This is the organ bubble, and this is the synth bubble. So. I'm able to kind of do these little stabs, which you could never do that without, you know, I mean. And it's kind of a cool, you know. Another song that uses that same bubble is "Give Thanks and Praise." So you can kind of, you know, you can kind of toss up the different chops and rhythms you do and come up with a lot of different texture.
It's amazing to see that in action because for anybody who's watching, when you check out Sam's left hand and you think about that in light of the Max device he showed us, that specialized chord trigger that he built makes all of this possible. It's like...
Also, let me show you. It's also easier when you see it on the piano. Let me actually show what's going on in the piano.
Yeah.
So, which one? Then add the piano.
Yep.
And if you start adding, you know, and same thing, let's see if I go to an old horns patch, you can see it all come together. And it's just, you know, it's a lot of notes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like that problem needs a specialized device to solve, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it when you see it working, you're like, wow, that's exactly it. I mean, you sound like 3 organ players or three different keyboard players all at once. It's amazing.
And let's see, here's another kind of fun one.
Yeah.
So the more you use this, the more you can kind of, the more you, I mean, all pianists, when they go and play a C, they don't really think if a C is going to come out. They just, a C is a C if you're raised as a pianist.
Yes.
And if you spend time sampling this kind of stuff, you can get away from that idea. And I mean, that's helpful for what you're doing. But if you can get away from that, this just becomes, just a canvas. And you can it's just a control surface. It can be anything. And it can be anything. Here's another one, kind of fun. Let me pull up okay, Who the Cat Fits. This one's fun because there's this like kind of I'll show you. So that's the organ groove. Yeah. But that's all this one is. And then you have the 8 voice lead comes in. You got it. So yeah, so you can just kind of new grooves, you know.
Yes.
So let's check. Oh yeah, here's another one. So Exodus. This is one where I could never nail this in opening part. I don't know if you know the part of Exodus. Let me play it for everyone real quick. Exodus, but it's got a really cool. Okay, come on. Give I don't know if you guys can hear that.
Yeah.
That little clav part. I didn't realize he's playing that in two hands. So the whole time I was trying to play it was because I didn't really have it fleshed out enough. No matter what effects I did, I just wasn't playing the right thing. So now when I do it again, I use that part. I use my, I don't know, MIDI sampler, MIDI arranger, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
To play chords for each note.
Oh, I lost your microphone there.
Hear me? Test.
Nope.
Lose my microphone? Not working?
Interestingly enough, though, I was able to hear your keyboard just fine. I can still hear your keyboard. Oh, I'm seeing a little signal come through. There you are.
Oh, you know what? Let me move my gain for some reason. I don't know how that happened.
That's
Okay,
right.
test.
Welcome back.
Good. All right. So yeah, you get the idea. And now the more I use this machine, the more I find reasons to do these things. Here's another one. Just Jehovah's Throne is one that I'm playing. And for this, I actually have like a little dummy, like a little courtroom dummy to show you.
Oh, cool.
So for this one, I play, there's like a horn part, like bum, 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 bum. It's just like kind of like hold, hit. And at the same time, I need to play a little organ line at the exact same time.
Okay.
So in order to solve this problem, I assigned those chords that I play on horns to these three notes, which are just random notes. They have nothing to do with what I'm doing.
Okay.
But they're out of the way and they fit in my hand, so I can hold those notes like this and then play the organ lines in the top part of my hand. And I can do the horns while playing this line. So let me show you how that works in practice. So
Yes.
Okay, so now I want to talk
Oh, but your gain got moved again.
I wonder if I have like I must have like a rogue MIDI assignment or
something. I can hear you now. Welcome back.
Can I? Okay. Why it's doing that?
Seeing that, and then it looked like you jumped up an octave to get the horn stayed in the same place, but the piano jumped up.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just I think of octaves as phrases for these kind of things, because the only thing, this had to keep moving up. Oh wait, I changed patches. Let me go back. So this goes up. So that has to go up, but the horns just stay the same. So I just put the same horns in the same spot, an octave up.
Yep.
And the very end, you have all the chords playing at once.
Yep.
Okay, so let's go on.
Your volume got bumped down. Something is triggering that to pop down.
Sorry about that. I don't know how to.
If anybody's watching right now and has questions for Sam, let us know, because I know he's doing a lot of amazing things. So as things come in, I will pull them up. But
okay, so let's also, I want to talk about ergonomics and some of the things that you can accomplish by having keyboards this close.
Yeah.
So one, let me go up and do get up, stand up. So this is a pretty famous one, you know. Get up, stand up. And then I go into like a kind of clav bubble. my thumb.
Yes.
So I'm playing down here on this bottom keyboard at the same time as I can play this.
Yes.
All that's in one hand, which makes it really convenient. All that's in one hand, which makes it really convenient to it's like, two different sounds in one. And you can actually, I don't know if I showed, but you can actually play all three notes in one hand.
Yes.
Which, going back to if any note can be any chord, I could have like one note could literally just be like a whole massive chord, and I can play something up here or whatever I want. So it kind of, with this tool, it becomes even more powerful.
Yes.
And here's an example of that. So I'm playing both keyboards at once.
Yep.
You see that all right?
I did, and also you should raise your volume. You got a Rogue controller there. But that's okay though. That's amazing.
Right now, I'll put that in development box.
Yeah. Amazing. So you basically, let me vastly simplify your setup and tell me if you agree with me. You've, on the hardware front, created something so that you have physically the maximum amount of reach, and on the software front, you've created instrument silos that can be accessed from either your MIDI sampler device or I guess from your MIDI sampler device or from not your MIDI sampler device, so you can access a group of sounds from any place that you need to access them. So
exactly. It's just like, I imagine it just like 4 sound modules, that are just all little islands in themselves, and I can plug anything I want into them to get to, it can receive any amount of data that I'm creating.
Yeah. This is This is exceptional. Friends, again, I'm going to do another call right now for questions. If you have any questions for Sam, because we're coming up close here to our hour, so usually about where we're wrapping. But as you can tell, Sam is not just an extremely talented musician, but outside the box thinker. So if you have some questions for him, let's get those answered. And Sam, while we're waiting for those questions, I always ask everybody who comes on the stream this same question, which is, if you were getting started with Gig Performer, you've never used it before, what bit of advice or wisdom would you give to somebody who's gonna open the program for the first time?
Well, first of all, I think sometimes we put the cart in front of the horse. I do a lot. Yeah. Sometimes I'll spend hours developing something that I don't even need or use, and just think about what you need and what you want. If you're a blues organist, your setup is going to be 100% different than mine. And a lot of the stuff I said is just nonsense to you because you won't use a lot of this stuff. So you have to think, what is it that you have to know what you want to accomplish before you start to build. Yeah. For example, like I said, if I was building a Gig Performer for just a blues guy, I would just have a Hammond, electric piano, and a piano, my 3 favorite sounds, just there all the time, and I could be able to just put a button and switch each one. It'd be super easy. I'd have the best sounds at my fingertips, and maybe add presets for each song, and that's that. Or whatever it is that you need, just. And if I was 80s, if I was a Michael Jackson, tribute band, I'd have a DX7 Rackspace. I'll tell you that right now. I mean, so you just you just have to find. I mean, that's the beauty of Gig Performer. It's just a chassis. You can strap whatever you want to that chassis. You just have to know what you want. And here's another thing: is get involved in the forums. It was funny. Actually, I was playing a gig in Ohio, and some guy was kind of peeping over at my setup, and he's like, "Gig Performer." I was like, "You hip? You hip to Gig Performer?" And we had a moment afterwards. I hope, Darius, if you're watching, Yeah, yes. He was talking about starting his first Gig Performer thing, so I'll have to check in with him, make sure he did. So. But yeah, so the world's your oyster. You can do anything, and it doesn't make sense to me why anyone would buy hardware anymore with where we are in the world. I mean, I can fit Yes's entire studio in my backpack.
Yeah.
And if I have one mini Moog, I have 128 mini Moogs. It's just like you don't need to spend money on hardware. You need to just support intellectual data and get some cool plugins and make something awesome,
Yes. I love the cart before the horse analogy. It's like
Yeah.
build what you need. We got a question coming in from Jay Allison Music. Which controller are you using, and why did you choose it over an expression pedal?
Well, you know what? Let's do a quick, because here's something I've actually experiment I've been meaning to do anyways. Let me go to Bubble, and now let's hear how it sounds, because I actually want to start using the breath controller for my Hammond, because I think it's way more expressive than expression pedal.
Interesting.
Because it's just, it's just you can do like it's just you have way more dexterity. I mean, your ankle is not that fast. Okay,
Yes.
so let's hear. Let me pull up a patch, like an organ patch, and I want you to hear a difference between pedal and. Okay, let's hold on a second here. See if it's working. Okay, so now I'm going to actually change my MIDI assignment to this. Okay, so that's breath controller now.
Okay.
I mean, like, you can just kind of, it's just not the same animal at all. And especially on horn patches, you're never going to make a horn patch sound like a horn patch with an expression pedal. I mean, you might make it sound better than without the expression pedal, but I mean, it's like talking, like like a breath controller it adds another whole level of expression, and I think it's a necessary tool.
Yeah, and especially with the horns, I mean that's what they were. I mean that's how they're built, right?
Remember, we're talking about use the instrument, the same tools as the sound you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
Like a horn player uses a breath controller, so if you want to make a horn sound like a horn, use a breath controller.
Yeah. I love the simplicity here.
Sorry, and also, what am I using? I'm using a Hornberg HB1. It's a German company, very good. I had a TEC control. It was okay. I mean, it got me into it. I think I used it for a week before I splurged and bought the HB1, and it's so good.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're still around. I actually have two of them. I have one for the road and one for here, and yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
So,
all right, I got one final question for you. This is more just for me before we wrap up here, which is, what are there any things that you do that are not music that you feel like empowers you to be a more accurate or expressive or experimental or creative musician?
Well, I'm actually kind of a wacky guy. I do a lot of stuff. Like, I don't know. I just fall down rabbit holes and have all sorts of projects. Like, I'm building a greenhouse in the back. I just had a lamb born on my 6-acre farm. I'm like starting in the back. So
Cool.
I have all sorts of things like this,
Yeah.
But I guess I learned how to I made a bunch of webs. I don't want to say this. I don't want to discourage anyone who doesn't have computer experience to think that they couldn't do what I do, because I'm still pretty much an amateur. But I've run a lot of websites for my bands. So I've probably built like 7 or 8 websites, and I use just a stupid drag and drop thing like Wix and these kind of things. But recently I started learning HTML and CSS and JavaScript just because, to save me the agony of working with these Wix editors.
Yeah.
And then so that kind of got me into thinking like a programmer. And then after that, I spent most of my programming knowledge I actually learned on Gig Performer Community, the forums. I mean, some of these guys, Piano Paul's helped me out a million times.
Paul,
I mean,
yes.
He's probably listening. He's the man.
Yeah.
Of course, Dave. Yeah. So I don't know. It's just there's a lot of expertise out there. And again, going back to putting the cart before the horse, you don't need to learn this before you start doing it. You just need to have a problem and you can solve it. Like if you're like, oh my gosh, my piano is the wrong polarity, like how annoying. You can just go to the forum and type how to change piano polarity in gig scripts. And someone's already done it for you, and just copy and paste. And you're going to learn how that works just by doing solving these little problems bit by bit.
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
So yeah, learn by doing. I mean, that's how I've learned everything pretty much. Yeah, that's how you learn. Yeah.
I love it. Well, dude, this has been awesome. I can't wait to go back and rewatch this as like a viewer. Thanks for being super prepared. Anybody who wants to see Sam with the Arc Band can go to the description below and click on those links. Sam also has a Patreon. So if you want to support his work,
just getting that going. Actually, I put that together for this stream because I figured might as well. But if you want to be the first person on it, go for it. Let's get going.
Yeah,
for the purpose
check it out. Do check it out because Sam is music. Sam is transforming as we speak. So if you want to follow his full progression and empower him to keep going, go check out his Patreon and support him. Check out the Arc Band because you guys saw the picture. You heard the music. It's incredible. Sam, thank you. Thank you so much for being with us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It was a great time.
Yeah. All right, friends. We will see you all very soon. Make sure you leave a comment below. Share this with people who need to see it. And we'll be back soon on Gig Performer.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Take care.